Hiya, I'm Naya, and as a kid I was a huge fan of Winx Club. Look, I even made some fan art that I made when I was like 4 or 5 as proof. Don't ask me why Bloom is the only one with a normal body or why Flora is white. I didn't have a brown pencil, I think. And so, since the reboot was announced, and we have seen all 6 of the transformation sequences and fairy forms, I wanted to draw these girls in my own style. And it's a little bit of a mix of the reboot look and their original look. I'll just talk about every individual girl separately and just, while I play the Speedpaint, I'll just tell you what I thought while designing them, okay? So if that sounds like your cup of tea, sit back and relax and enjoy this video. Of course, we had to start with the leader of the group, which is Bloom, the fairy of the dragon flames. And starting off with her new fairy design, I don't like it. It honestly has to be my second least favorite design of all of them. I don't like the weird random shoulder thing she has going on, and I don't like the design of the skirt because it just looks odd to me. And I don't understand why they added in pink to her design. I know that they added in pink in most of her later fairy forms, like Believix, I believe. And they also added a little bit of pink in Enchantix from what I remember. Honestly, I was never a fan of Believix, and the pink in Enchantix, looking into it, is very subtle, and she has more like this turquoise color. I don't know, I just don't like the color combination at all. And as you can see with this design, I mostly took inspo or design details from her very original fairy form. Jesus, that was a mouthful. Literally, the only thing that I took from her new design is the ponytail, but made it less detailed. And I decided for some, color variations, I just went with this lighter blue and yellow. I know, I always loved the fact that they gave Bloom the blue color scheme instead of, orange or yellow. And I understand that it's because of her hair, but I still think that the red hair with the blue and some little yellow details is just beautiful. I also really wanted to add back the small crown that she has to show that she has some royalty in her or is from royal background. She figures that out later in the story if you aren't that familiar with the Winx lore, but I think it's a very subtle way to foreshadowing that bit of her backstory because she later finds out in season 1 of the original show that she is adopted. And seeing the reboot, I'm pretty sure that they still keep in this little detail. And I know that she also finds out later on that she is the fairy of the dragon flame. So that's maybe why we don't see the actual dragon when she transforms. Because I've seen people complain about that, but I don't believe... No, I know for a fact that she didn't have the dragon in her very first transformation sequence. She has it in Enchantix. I mean, at the very least, they kept the heart in. I really love that heart turning into a butterfly in a new transformation sequence. The only thing that I don't like about every single transformation sequence of the reboot is the fact that the girls are giggling. It's very annoying to me, and I know that people online have said that too, but I just have to say it again, I do not like the giggling. As for how I feel about Bloom personally, coming from somebody that only watched season 1 through 3, I know a little bit about 4, but I haven't really followed it. But anyway, Bloom was never my personal favorite character. I don't want to say that she was my least favorite. I love all the girls in different ways, but Bloom was more or less the most boring to me at some point. And I rewatched some episodes and I think it's purely because of her relationship with Sky, and I do not like Sky. I feel like this is a very personal thing for me. I don't think anybody else feels like this, but most of Bloom's problems to me were because of Sky or Diaspro, but I love Diaspro, so all the blame goes to Sky for me. I don't know, maybe you feel different about Bloom's and Sky's relationship, but they're definitely not my favorite ship in the show. And as for Bloom herself, I really hope that they bring back her stubbornness, because she could be so stubborn in the original show and very curious about things, putting herself into danger. Like the way how she just follows the witches around in some episode, or the ogre, I forgot his name. But yeah, I really hope that we do get to see that side of her again. And with that, the Fairy of the Dragon Flame is finished. Princess Stella of Solaria is the fairy of the shining sun, and also Bloom's best friend, and first fairy that she meets in the series. Or well, the original series. For some reason in the reboot it seems like Bloom will meet both Stella and Flora, but I guess we'll see how that plays out. And I also remember Stella being the fairy of the sun and moon, mostly because of her parents, because her father is King Radius of Solaria, so he's the sun. And her mother is Queen Luna, or just Princess Luna. I don't know how monarchy works in Solaria. But obviously, Luna, moon, you get it. And it's really a shame that you don't really see the moon, like, inspo in her outfits. And I suppose one reason could be that she lives with her father. And I always thought that that's why she was more confident in using sun magic rather than moon magic. And so with that idea in mind, I actually wanted to add a little bit of more of the moon in her design, if that makes sense. I don't know, I feel like they had this perfect opportunity to, instead of adding pink in the new design, maybe add a more lighter blue color. I don't know if that will work perfectly, but not every girl likes pink, guys. And Flora is already the pink character. So Stella's colors for me are just orange and blue, which is like the original, only I added in more blues. I also decided to give back her iconic pigtails. I just love them so much, and I get in the reboot they reversed it with the transformations look being loose hair and her civilian look being with the pigtails. But I love the little hair flip that she does when she gets the pigtails. As a kid, I absolutely love that animation in particular. I don't know how well it would have translated in 3D, but I know that it is a shame that we don't have it anymore. Other than that, I just gave her ever so slightly more details. I made her crown bigger to really show people that she is the princess of one of the biggest kingdoms, if not the biggest kingdom in Magix. I added a little bit of blue in her shirt, oh well, bottom shirt, and a blue belt in order to balance the colors more, in my opinion. I also forgot to draw her wings, but you'll see in the finished drawing that her wings are really more like moonlight, while her hair to me is as bright as the sun. I also made her ever so slightly darker, like her skin is more of this sun-tanned skin color, which makes sense for somebody who lives on a planet where the sun is center stage. It never rains in Solaria, so you're telling me she cannot be as white as a ghost. I'm talking about you, Stella, from season 8. As for Stella as a character, I love her so much. As a kid, I wasn't the biggest Stella fan, but now Stella is. She has my heart, honestly. But I love characters who are, like, they have every right to be vain and spoiled, but they're so friendly towards their friends and loyal, and maybe sometimes a bit of a ditz, but they mean well, and I love Stella for that. I also love the fact that she is actually the oldest of the group. At least in the original season 1, she was held back a year because she was trying to create a new shade of pink in the potions lab and it exploded. I also love that she is a fashionista and she wants to make sure that her friends look the best and probably also feel the best. Also, unlike Bloom's and Sky relationship, I do think that Stella and Brandon are adorable. They gotta be my favorite couple in Winx Club, honestly. The fact that Stella seemed to fall for Brandon first because she thought he was a prince and therefore rich, but then later figures out that he isn't, he's just a page or whatever it's called, but she still ends up loving him and wants to celebrate the fact that she still does. And with that being said, Stella is finished. I honestly wasn't sure if I wanted to draw her with her staff, but I decided to not do that, and I think this pose is actually really cute. Flora is the fairy of nature, and when I was younger, she was my favorite character. Honestly, she still is, like, nothing has changed, and even of all the reboot looks, I do like Flora's the best. I think the only nitpicky complaint that I have is that the green is now a softer green instead of this brighter green, and that her wings are also no longer shaped like a leaf and green also, but that's really about it. I think the dress is cute, the shoes are cute, the hair that she has is cute, and I love that they added more, not butterflies, but flowers to her design. To me, she is also the one that sticked to her original look closest, except for the hairstyle. Same can be said for Musa, honestly. And yet with my design, I decided to take more inspiration from her original design. Oh well, her season 1 design. First things first, I knew that I wanted to add more greens to her design to not make her drown in all the pink. I also changed her dress form. Like, I get it in both the original and the reboot, it's supposed to represent a flower. I believe a rose in the reboot and a tulip in the original. And I decided to give it, in my opinion, a cuter flower shape. I cannot tell you which flower it is exactly. I just figured that this would make her look more cuter, in my opinion. I also added in the flowers that they added in her reboot look, so it's really giving the Fairy of Nature vibes, like I said. I did change her hair to resemble her Enchantix more, because I just love the 2 buns that she has in her head, and with my previous video you can see that I even gave my OC Vanessa those. I just love that hairstyle so much, man. I also gave Flora back her original wings. I know that they are very simple, but I like them, and I love the fact that they are shaped like a leaf, like I said before. And I added in a little detail, like the ever so slightly detail that it's supposed to represent a leaf. I don't know if you can see it really, but yeah, that was kind of the idea behind it. As for this reboot, I hope that they give back her mom friend vibes. I always loved how she was more of the quiet and most mature one of the group, compared to the other girls especially. I also imagine her being more of a supportive magic user. I am not sure if it's ever said in the series, but I always figured that Flora is a pacifist. I mostly do remember her using her magic to hold people back or down or just heal the forest around her. So I honestly hope that we get to see more of that in the reboot. And because I mentioned the boyfriends of Bloom and Stella, it feels just right to mention Helia. Yes, Flora and Helia were adorable, but I felt like they didn't need to give every single girl a boyfriend. And since Helia was the last one to be introduced for Flora, I just didn't like, as a young kid, I didn't even like the route that they were taking on making them a couple. And this is not me saying that I have an issue with couples in TV shows. This is me saying that I didn't get why every single girl had to have a boyfriend. And for all I care, they could have removed Riven or Sky entirely, and then it would have been so much better, because I don't like those 2 boys. But seeing the things that I've seen about the reboot, they are definitely back. I'm not sure about Brandon, Timmy, and Helia, but I'll guess we'll see. And like I said, Flora and Helia are super adorable, but I just still don't like the fact that at some point every single girl had a boyfriend. But I guess at least Flora wasn't constantly clingy to Helia, unlike Bloom and Sky, or Bloom towards Sky, for example. But anyway, that's Flora, and she is probably my favorite out of them all. I don't know, I think that she turned out super adorable, or it's just bias, who knows. Musa is the fairy of music, and I am so glad that they made Musa's hair short in the reboot again. It's not that I had issues with her long hair, but I feel like season 1 Musa is very much a tomboy, so her having long hair just didn't make sense to me for some reason. Plus, I think that the short hair is absolutely adorable, but I just don't get why they had to change it into braids in her fairy form. Oh well, the reboot fairy form. I also don't know how to feel about the dress that they gave her in the reboot. And I'm at least happy that they gave back her 2 colors, which are red and purple, but I don't know about the dress. I do love the shoes though, I do love the shoes a lot, which is why I am reusing them in my version of Musa. Other than that, I mostly took inspiration of her original look. I gave back her spiky hair in her fairy form, that pink thing that she has on her stomach. I honestly don't know what it is exactly. I also gave back her headphones, the purple armbands, and that's about it actually. Also, one thing that you might notice is that I gave her brown eyes instead of blue. It's simply due to the fact that I think brown suits her better. I also gave her red strands in her hair, I believe that's how you say it, just to make the hair also pop out a little bit more against the purple of her headphones. As for her magic, I do feel like she could use it both as attack magic or defense magic, or maybe even healing. If you know Overwatch, I know we're taking a tangent here, but if you know Overwatch, you know Lucio, and he uses his music to boost up people or heal them. I feel like Musa could be doing that too. She could also just destroy her enemies' eardrums, really. There is honestly a lot of routes that you could take with Musa's magic. As for her personality, I hope that in the reboot that they bring back her more tomboy, sarcastic, and kind of straight to the point personality. Like the beef that she had with Stella sometimes was just so funny to me. I also hope that they don't do that music is literally her only personality trait, because that would be so boring. And I've said this before, but I do not care about Musa and Riven as a couple. I think they could have made for an interesting dynamic as a couple, but it was just drama with them all the time. I would say it's almost as worse as Bloom and Sky, but for some reason Riven and Musa weren't that irritating to me. I do think that they will bring it back in the reboot though. I don't know, it's just a feeling. But with that said, Musa is now done. Tecna is the fairy of technology, and I think that her name makes that perfectly clear. Unfortunately, Tecna's new and old fairy look are both my least favorite ones of the entire group. The old one was too simple compared to the others, and I did not like this weird hat that she had. And again, the new one looks too simple compared to the others, and it could have been easily an alternative outfit for her. Also, the boots are just very weird looking to me. In my design for Tecna, I took more inspiration of the original look once again, but I did take the wings of her reboot look. I also brought back her original color. I don't have an issue with her new color. I think it's a very dark purple. The only problem that I have, it's a purple that leans very close to being blue, and that causes her and Bloom to somewhat be in the same color spectrum. And what I love about the original is that all 6 of the girls have their own colors, and I just don't get what they were thinking of giving Tecna this more indigo color actually than this old purple color that she had. It's a very pretty purple, so I don't get it. Anyway, for my design, I decided to just shorten up the purple that she had, but I did add in more of this bluish gray color. I also decided to give her some visors that allow her to quickly Google something or just look through walls. I literally gave her wall hacks. Other than that, actually the rest of the design was just me going with the flow and liking how it turned out. As for Tecna herself, I always liked that she was a character that thinks more with logic than being led by her emotions. Which is also why she's the only one I drew without smiling. Trying to give her a hard to read expression, you know. And I also recently learned that in the 4Kids dub that she was voiced with a British accent, and I love it actually. I don't know why, I think it's so adorable. As for magic, I have seen her in the later seasons often use electricity magic, which is also super cool because that also works for technology obviously, but she can also hack into any system if she really wanted to. So I figured that Tecna would probably have again a more support role in the group. I'd imagine her looking up information, or as much information as possible, of whichever enemy that they're facing. As for her relationship with Timmy, it was adorable, but that's really all I can say. I didn't care a lot about them. Which is a shame, because their dynamic with an overly emotional nerd with a stoic but smart girl could be very interesting, but I don't know. It didn't make me feel anything really. With that being said, Tecna is now finished and we have one more Winx Club member to go. Layla, or Aisha depending on where you're from, is the fairy of waves. And even though I grew up with her being called Layla, I will refer to her as Aisha since most people seem to call her that. I will start by saying that I love what they did with Aisha's hair in both her fairy look and her civilian look in the reboot, but that's also about it. I do not like how her new outfit looks. I don't know, it just looks weird to me, and I don't like that they try to keep pushing this aqua blue color to Aisha, even though blue is literally Bloom's color. And, you know, I get it with her ability being waves or her magic being waves or water related, but it's just too close to Bloom's color for my liking. So I gave her back her green color scheme, and as you can see, she is just an updated version of the original look. For my version, I decided that Aisha is the fairy of Morphix, and for those who don't know what Morphix is, it's basically this pink substance that Aisha can conjure. And in my version, I'd imagine that it works like any type of fluid, so think of water, mud, clay, anything like that. Which is why I decided to bring back the Morphix pink color into her design. I gave her this color beads, and some of her accessories are also that color, and it really makes the design pop out, in my opinion. As for Aisha's character, she was very interesting to me in the original because she grew up in a strict household and was being raised isolated, so she didn't have many friends. And she obviously felt like the odd one out in the group, which is honestly very relatable to me. But now with the reboot, the biggest change is that Aisha is already in the group at the beginning, so I wonder how they'll tackle her personality, honestly. And in the original, she also was forced to marry a guy that her parents chose for her. And eventually she does fall in love with Naboo, that's his name, but then he gets killed or disappeared? I don't know. Why couldn't they do that to Sky? Hello? I actually like Naboo and Aisha a lot. And maybe I like to think that a lot of people started to like Aisha and Naboo a lot more than Bloom and Sky, so the creators are like, okay, we have to kill this guy. I don't think that's canon, but it would be funny if it was. Honestly, Aisha went through so much in the original. It's insane, actually. I probably am repeating myself, but holy shit. So maybe with this reboot, they are toning it down for her. At least I hope so. I think that they'll probably still keep in the strict parents, or her having strict parents, but that's also about it. I don't think that they're going to make her forced to marry somebody and then kill off that person once she falls in love with him. That would be really messed up. But with that being said, finally all 6 of the girls are done. Honestly, there is so much more I could talk about, like the absolute divas, which are the Tricks. I love Darcy so much out of all the 3 of them. And I didn't even get to talk about the cringy live-action show Winx the Fate Saga, or the redesign that they did in season 8. I absolutely hate it. Or the World of Winx spin-off. Heck, I would have loved to talk about the other fairies like Roxy, Diaspora, or Murda, just to name a few. And I didn't even get to talk about the little pixies that they had. And that for some reason they changed up Musa's and Tecna's pixies for some reason. Or even the main villains of the show, like Lord Darkar or Valtor. Or the other ones that I honestly don't know that well, except for the 4 guys that were after Roxy. But you know, this video is already as long as is, and maybe those are topics that I can talk about in future videos. If you made it till the end, thank you so much for watching, and comment who your favorite Winx fairy is. Mine will forever be Flora, but Stella is a close second. Also, subscribe to my channel if you like to talk or listen to somebody talking about art, OCs, and other art related stuff. You can also follow me on my socials, the links will be below. And with that being said, I hope you have a fantastic day or night, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye bye!